Hey, everybody, and welcome back to a new season of the Sunday Morning Coffee Podcast. It has been a bit of a hiatus, but well needed, and I'm recharged and back with another episode this morning here on Spotify. It was my pleasure to get to talk to Amy Taylor. Amy and I shared an incredibly interesting conversation, which started before the recording even started. So we just kind of rolled into it. It was a great conversation about a topic that I've never really explored before. And I don't mean that in a funny way, but the life of a sex worker. I never honestly really even thought about it before, other than, the odd debate about should it be legalized, should it not be legalized, the moral issues involved, and so on. But Amy and I had a great talk about how she got into that life, the pros and cons of it, the stereotypes or narrow minded thinking that some people have towards sex workers. We talked about social media. We talked about love. We talked about life. We talked about a lot of things. It was a great conversation. So thank you, Amy Taylor, for being such a wonderful guest. And I hope you enjoy the show. The Sunday Morning Coffee Podcast is back.
If maybe you should. Like
Yes.
it's like Brett. Well, I don't know what athletes in hockey, but sometimes you don't want to quit because it's fun, right?
Well, and that's all they know from the
Yeah,
time they were kids,
sure.
and they've been the best at it from the time they were kids, and now all of a sudden they have to go do something else.
Yeah,
Like,
and it pays well, and it makes you all the things, right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
know that was this American football player, Brett Favre. He kept accepting like less and less money because he was like, I just want to play. And
yeah,
finally, it was time to hang it up. But that's
yeah,
life, right? The
yeah,
great thing about music is a lot of these iconic rock stars, I mean, they're playing forever now if they take care of themselves.
yeah.
It's great.
Like the Rolling Stones are over 80 and they're still out there doing their thing. Like I hope to, when
He's
I'm
going
80, I hope to be
to
able to
outlive
do
all
that.
of us.
Yeah.
Dude,
Oh,
maybe he's already dead and he's the undead
I
because it
think,
doesn't make any sense to me.
yeah, it's ridiculous what
I
that
mean,
guy is lived through is just crazy. It would
yeah, hasn't been able
kill.
to kill himself.
Yeah.
Are you a musician too, or are you just a music
Oh,
fan?
I wish. I'm just a wannabe.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. But I love music. I love music. I love words. So for me, music is like obviously the music I love too, but the words I'm really into lyrics, and that's
Yeah.
sort of what grabs me about songs
Huh.
almost first. So yeah, so not a musician, but I do write some poetry and that kind of
Oh,
thing.
that's
Yeah, so
lovely.
yeah,
I'll admit, music can make me so emotional. It, I don't, I sometimes don't want that much emotion. Like, it'll fuck up my day.
yeah. No, I get you. I get you.
or, or the reverse. Like when I want to go to the gym and I'm not that motivated, a happy song will do the job or whatever. Bill Withers, Lovely Day in the Morning. You cannot start out not in a good mood if you listen to that tune. It's impossible. And, but like, and of course the stuff that reminds you of your exes, like there's a few
Just
songs
think.
that I still do not I don't want to listen to them because it takes
Yeah,
me right back.
I was just thinking that very thing because I was listening to music. No, not Saturday because I was doing a show Saturday. So Friday, I guess I was listening to music, just having a drink, having a whiskey, whatever. And then a song came on, and it reminded me of an ex,
Yeah,
and I was over it, like completely. And it's
good.
like,
You
yeah,
were? Yay.
yeah. But then that song, it's like, ugh, like. But then
You're human.
I take a breath, and it's like, okay, that's good. I can still feel things. Like that's
That's it. And the feeling emotional pain is, yeah, it reminds you that you're human and not a sociopath, and those are all good things. I think my most recent ex, I'm really happy for him. He's totally in love and getting married soon. Uh, I just didn't realize how quickly he would be totally fine after, and I'm the one who dumped him. And I didn't want him not fine. I didn't. But I feel both things. I feel very happy for him. I'm glad he's no longer angry at me. I'm also jealous because
yeah.
I'm an idiot. Because I'm an idiot, right? um, I guess I wanted him to be very happy, but slightly less happy than me.
Right,
I
right.
joke.
I
Not
know.
true. But, well, we're all
Yeah.
human, right?
Yep. Yep. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's music and words are two of the things, and like talking to people like you. Like I don't know. I love talking, just having conversations and
Yeah.
learning new shit. And like, so the radio thing, I get to talk to musicians, which is great. Like, I do interviews that I play on the station. I get to talk to people like you. I get to talk to author. Like, I get to talk to so many people that I would never have gotten
Yeah.
to talk to before.
Well,
And
it's
I've
all
learned,
eye-opening.
yeah, I've learned so many things. Like, I had one guest on, I don't know if you saw it in the list, but a guy that collects antique snake
Yes.
venom. Yes.
I
And
watched
so
that whole show and I want to go to his place in Arizona now.
perfect. That's
Dude,
great.
he
And
seems amazing. He has the greatest life.
yeah, it's incredible. And I thought, one of my friends said, like, I didn't know you were into like snakes. And I'm like, I'm not. It just, I saw it might have been on the same Facebook page that you posted on. And I thought, snake venom kits. That's interesting. Like, and that's how it happened. Like, it was as simple as that. And learning about all the, snake oil salesmen and legitimate, it was really cool.
Well, I think you can't go wrong with doing what interests you. And maybe money comes, maybe it doesn't. But I know Joe Rogan, arguably the biggest podcast in the world, he said he literally just interviews people that are interesting to him.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that continues. He doesn't seem to have totally sold out. Of course, interviewing big name celebrities is always a good idea because it helps. But I think true creativity is, yeah, just following what interests you. And that's good that you still do. That's really,
Mm-hmm.
I
And
think,
I
I'm
think
sorry.
it's part and parcel for the course, though, like, because as Joe Rogan gets bigger, right, he's going to get bigger names.
Of course.
That's just kind of,
And
but
there's also more overhead, so they kind of do need to make sure they get good brands advertising and good guests that get people to listen. It becomes a real business.
yeah.
But
But do you know who Theo Vaughn is?
of course, he's hilarious.
Oh, I love him. He's
Oh,
one of my favorite comedians
the
in the world.
hamster comedy routine. I
Oh
can't.
my god,
The way his mind works.
his brain is just one of the most unique
Yeah.
voices that
And
I've
I know he's
heard.
struggled heavily with addiction. I'm glad he's hanging in because he's one we want around a long
Yeah.
time.
So on his podcast, like he interviewed Trump, right? He's interviewed RFK, like huge names. But then one week he had a garbage man on
Yeah.
from Detroit, like,
Yeah.
and what I would like to be. Like,
Yeah.
I would like to interview the big names, but if
Yeah.
some dude with a snake bite kit collection is interesting, I want to do that too, right?
Well, that's
That,
actually what keeps it true for fans. Like these podcasts that just interview whoever's like hot at the
willing.
moment.
Yeah.
I don't know. You see that like the Hawk Tuah girl did the rounds and good for
Read
her.
my
Good
mind
for
again.
But like I did a podcast right when that same week when she was like all over everywhere. And the host, he was so desperate to get her that for
Mm,
like 3 hours he was just asking everybody who they knew that could get this girl. And I was like, dude, chill. Like you're famous enough. Like
yeah.
I get it, you want money, but like creativity is important in the world and you don't always know what'll hit. It can hit later. Hopefully not posthumously. You don't want to be like Van Gogh who dies broke and then your stuff sells for $80 million.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not ideal.
The only reason people want to talk to me is because a lot of people that have lived and made the choices I've made will not speak to you. There's millions of us, but they won't talk to you. And then
Right.
and I got outed, so there was nothing else to lose and I had to make lemonade. So I figured I'll just make the best of it cuz my privacy's gone. And it turned out the I've I've met a few people who've said no, I still think you're scum, you can rot, and that's fine, that's their opinion. But most people have been like, "Oh yeah, like you're just people. It's really not that big of a deal."
Yeah.
And many hundreds have said, "I didn't think I ever knew anybody like you who lived the way you lived, and I thought all kinds of things that are wrong." And so it's good to see that you're just a human. It's really
Right.
not. It's actually not that interesting, but people make it such a big deal. So I thought if I humanized and I just think that if I can humanize one person in my world, it helps from people thinking that we should just be like killed by serial killers and that we are throwaway people because we're not, right? And maybe
Right.
it's so different up where you live toward people like me, but America has some real weird opinions about people like me.
Right.
I don't know.
So you said you were outed.
Yeah.
Could you care to talk about that? I mean, we're
Sure.
talking now. We might as well just let it roll. So,
Yeah, let's do it.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So, yeah, the long and the short, I was in college at UC Berkeley in California, and a sorority sister of mine, her parents got divorced, and she had to move out of the sorority house because her dad was like skipping out on child support payments. And her mom couldn't afford it. Her mom had been like a stay-at-home mom with no money, so she couldn't afford the sorority. And she was a really good friend of mine. She was cool, and still is. She's fine now, 25 years later. But the summer after this was my sophomore year, she had an apartment and a job, and I was going to summer school. We were both staying there for summer instead of going home like some people did. And she confessed to me that she was going across the bridge to San Francisco and going on dates with these super rich tech nerds, and that she would go home with a few $1,000s. And I was like, wait, what? Like,
Yeah.
I'm dating a frat boy who's like won't even pay for my breakfast and doesn't call me back and wants to sleep with all my friends and is not that nice to me. Uh, I joke. I was dating a guy who had just got out of med school, and he was kind of rich and was also paying for everything. Because pretty girls, that's just sort of starts to happen to you, which is a common story.
Right.
So I did love him, but yes, I also loved that he was 9 years older and had a job because he could take me to dinner and things. And so I kind of was like, I don't know, sugar baby. I mean, I did love him. He wanted to marry me. I'm the one who didn't want to. I
Right.
was too young. Maybe I should have. I don't know what that life would have been like. Um, but the fact that he could provide was attractive to me because I was broke. So she told me she was doing this, and I kind of filed it in the back of my head, like, oh my God, like you can literally get paid for something everyone is doing for free. Like, what? And, but I didn't do it because I had this boyfriend. And then, so I go to I work, I am in biotech. I'm a pretty bad scientist. It's the only thing I'm qualified for because my undergraduate degree was in molecular biology. I'm finding out that I'm not that great at it, and I don't enjoy it. Uh, so I pivoted. I did an MBA because I needed to get some other qualifications, right? You know the deal when you switch to tech, right?
Right.
So I go to Los Angeles where I get into graduate school to do my MBA. And this doctor, he's now a doctor who had been paying all my bills. He wanted me available to him, so he didn't want me to work. So I was pretty dependent on him, car, grad school bills, rent, everything. He and I broke up, and he yanked the rug out from under me financially. So I'm in LA with grad school with suddenly no rich boyfriend and no job, and the only option is to, like, I guess, go back home to Northern California and find a biotech firm and work there because that's the only degree I've got. And like I said, I hated it, and it also didn't pay that well.
Right.
I would have had to marry somebody to survive in San Francisco. It's too expensive. Um, it's funny how systems kind of, like, a lot of women's jobs don't pay very well, and or they didn't. Now it's changing, but 25 years ago when I was young, most women's work paid way less than guys. And so you kind of had to get married whether you wanted to or not. And the society sort of, it worked because then you had a baby and that's what society needs you to do. And this system is very powerful, and bucking it is almost impossible. You just can't. And so I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stay in grad school. So I thought of what this sorority sister might have told me, looked around for a way to do that. This person I met, it's pretty common in Hollywood. A lot of actresses, a lot of models, a lot of rich guys. Uh, Nobody was even that surprised. Oh, you're like a grad student, you're broke, and you'd like to have a rich boyfriend or two. Yeah, shocker.
Yeah.
Not surprising. Um, and young and heartbroken and not looking for anything that serious because I had just gotten out of 7 years with him. So I thought I would do that. And somebody told me about the internet, and I looked up a bunch of sites and was like, oh, this is how you do this. This is not rocket science. If I can get through UC Berkeley with molecular biology, I can figure this one out. And yeah, the rest was history. It was literally just dating. My first client was a billionaire who I saw for, oh my God, way over a decade. He's ill now and his life is ending, but we're still very friendly. Um, then things just, it was off to the races, and it was pretty nice. Just traveled the world, finished my graduate degree, got a job with an oil company, still had a couple rich boyfriends because that helped me pay off the grad school bills. But when I got outed, there came the things that I was too naive and did not know also exist. So yes, part of it was great dates with great people, glamour, travel, yes, private jets, yes, restaurants, all the shit you see, lifestyles of the rich and famous. Yes, there is that. I was not that rich, but I got to be around people who were. I was, you know, just because you get to be on a private jet doesn't mean you'll ever have one. I will never have one. That's fine.
Same, same.
But no, but I was like their drivers or their pilots or their house managers. You get some nice perks from serving somebody who's very wealthy, and they're usually very nice, impeccable taste. They're lovely. The idea that they're abusing women because they're wealthy is just cope. People like to say that because they're jealous. It's not true. They're lovely. They're fine. But the bad thing that happened was when you are attractive and romantic, which I am, I love dating, I love men, you are very marketable, and there are people in the companionship industry who want to manage your career and make money off you. You see it a lot now with OnlyFans. There's guys who want to manage your OnlyFans and make money off you. They're pimps.
Pimps, yeah.
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 So
It's modern
there
day.
was yeah, and they can't do anything for you better than you can do for yourself if you're
No.
smart. I suppose if you're really young and stupid, you need one because you're just not smart enough. But I didn't need that. Nobody's going to do anything for me I can't do, and I can hire help for everything. The assistant who connected us, I hire her. She works for me.
Mhm.
So this guy who was a manager demanded that I, let him arrange everything with my friends, few guys I'm dating, and that he gets a cut, which, I told him to go fuck himself because I don't need that and I don't want to deal with him. And that was a mistake because some of these people, when they can't profit off you, they want to destroy you.
Right.
So that's what happened. He bought a URL of my birth name, the name on my passport and ID. He outed me to the whole world. I lost my job. My family didn't speak to me for years. I lost my unborn child. I had actually met somebody. I had actually retired. I didn't tell the internet because by then, this is years into it, I built a pay site so I could monetize my content and make an extra stream of income. So I left that running and didn't tell people that I was actually very early pregnant and planning on moving to Seattle with a guy that I had met. And yes, the pregnancy was not on purpose, but we were going to try to make it work. And I miscarried, I guess stress or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what happened. It was devastating. And then I was consumed with getting justice. I didn't know who had done this. I didn't know it was this pimp manager guy. His name's David Elms. He goes by David Nguyen now. And if you Google David Elms murder, you can read all about it. Because what happened was I couldn't figure out who did it. I wanted to know who built this website outing me and sent copies of it to everyone I knew. I needed to find out. And the only way you could do that in my country is to file a police report or a lawsuit because you can reveal the owner of a website if you have a subpoena or a police report. So I did both. I knew I was running the risk of maybe law enforcement not taking me seriously and thinking I'm a garbage person who deserves no respect, but I didn't give a shit. I'm a little feisty that way. If you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it. I like to do things that women shouldn't do. My whole life's been about doing things that buck gender roles. I enjoy my femininity. I'm very much a woman. I'm straight. I like makeup and hair, but I also am pretty self-directed. So I took a chance, and 3 judges tossed out my lawsuit, but my lawyer is the only person I know who is less afraid of things than me. He's a good friend from college, hates what I've done, but is willing to fight for me. And I do pay him. It's not free.
Yeah.
So I spent quite a bit of money, but it was well worth it. Sued him, found out it was this guy. I remember being shocked because I knew he didn't like me for not letting him make money off me, but I didn't realize he wanted to ruin my life. I didn't realize that. It turned out he was a crazy person. He was a drug abuser and a convicted rapist and gun trafficker, and he was a
charming fella. Yeah.
Yeah, half Korean, half white. I did not know who I was messing with. Because 99.99% of people, if they don't like you, they just, lob a couple fuck yous and that's about it, right?
Yeah, drop the C word in there on you a couple times. And
that's what normal people do. You don't have to like each other, but you don't go to this extent. And
right.
I just think there are some men out there, well, women too, if they can't control other people, they can't survive. They have a very strong need to control another human being and abuse them. That's the kink. And if you have that, go be a dom and get it out in a safe space in a dungeon. Cool, fine by me. I've done lots of that. But this person wanted to own women. He called women his inventory. That's what he called them. So when I found out this ownership of this website was him, I called him because that's how dumb I am. And my lawyer told me not to. I did it anyway. And he answered, and I said, "I know you did this to me." And he said, "No, I didn't, but I do know. And if you come over to my house and sleep with me, I'll take it down."
But I didn't do it.
And I said, "I'm going to destroy you legally, of course. I'm not going to kill anybody." And I hung up, and that's when I sued him. And I won. And when I won him, he didn't even show up for court. He was a crackhead. If you ever sue anybody, sue a crackhead. It's really easy to win because they don't show up for their court dates.
Especially if it's early in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, not punctual, not they got a lot of crack to do, so they don't wake up. So of course I won. I never collected the judgment, the money he can have. It was never about money. So you're welcome, David. You still owe me like 80 grand, but I didn't care about the money. But when I sued him, I was again, I had lost everything. The person I loved, my unborn child, my family. So I moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and I just flew planes. So I'm also a flight instructor, and I've flown cargo, and I've flown in a variety of ways. So this was all happening, and I couldn't really function. I was so scared and angry and sad. So I just went out to the desert, and I didn't want to live in the apartment that he had the address of because I was scared. So I moved into this pilot apartment, and I was flying every single day in Phoenix, Arizona for like a year and a half. And that was kind of a good cope, with this nightmare that had happened in my life. But one night I was driving home from Williams Gateway to the pilot apartment, and my lawyer called, and he said, "I need you to pull over." I was like, "All right, what now?" And the district attorney, Christy Bell, she was on the phone, and she said, "David Elms, this guy, is driving to Phoenix tonight to kill you." Great.
Fun. Yeah.
Yeah, super. So of course my question is, what do I do now? Help. And they got him. The major offenders unit intercepted him. He was late. Again, not very punctual.
Yeah.
They got him, and I owe my life to the Phoenix, Arizona police. And apparently he cried and said that he was trying to help me retire, and they thought I was dating him. They thought this was some boyfriend situation. I was like, "Dude, I've never met this guy. He just bothers me by phone and email." So he went to prison for a few years, and he's out now, and he has a daughter, and he has a life, and he's cobbled together a new career. He is very smart, also in IT, so he's able to be employed. And the victim services tells me where he is forever if I want to know. And he does use a new name to try to clean up his life, and it seems like he has, which I hope stays. I did not enact revenge. I had a Russian client who was like, "Yeah, we'll kill him. We'll have him killed now." I was like, "No."
Yeah.
And he was like, he's like, "You're stupid. The easiest time to have him killed," it was Russian. He was like, "The easiest time to have somebody killed is when they're in prison." I'm like, "No, Sam, we're not doing that. I am not a Russian person. I'm not doing that." So that's what happened. And so everybody found out. And in suing, I had to put it in public record because lawsuits, at least America, they end up on Google. So to save my own life, I actually had to put in the legal record everything. So, but given what he was doing, I don't feel like I had a choice.
Right.
So yeah, that's how the outing went. It was great.
Huh. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
No, it sucks.
So, yeah. So with someone like that, okay, we all know the Indian scammers, right? That try to get you with gift cards and all that crap. That's 100% about money, right? That's just money. So what do you think it is with someone like that tries to do that to you or to someone on OnlyFans? Because do they target you because they think you're weaker? They think you're vulnerable because of what you do?
Yeah.
Is it's got to be somewhat about money because, like you said, crackhead, right?
Expensive.
That's right. That's
right.
But
I don't know.
I have no idea. I don't want to know. But I would think if you do enough of it, like I drink whiskey, I knew if I was an alcoholic, I would need a lot of money to drink a lot of whiskey.
Oh, my
So
expensive French cheese habit is wallet
there,
hurt. So we've all got our stuff, right?
exactly. So it seems to me with targeting someone like you or someone on OnlyFans, there's kind of like a dual thing going on there. Is that
Yeah,
accurate?
correct. So yes, I think I mean, I don't know the mental gymnastics of a psychopath, but I do think some of them believe that the women are stupid and just pretty and young, and they're providing a service that, so like a lot of pimps will say, I'm making her charge more and cleaning her up so she looks classier and can make more.
And
Uh,
protection and
I send her to community college for when when I'm done with her, she's gonna be, yeah, they don't really give a shit about the girl. But I get her hair done, her manicures, right? So but that's just an investment in their inventory. It's not for her.
right.
But I think some of them, Andrew Tate said when he ran My Free Cams, he simply hired the most beautiful girls he could find visually, because on the cam he just wanted tens. The problem with tens is often they spoke no English and they were not super smart. So he unplugged the keyboard, they'd be typing away, and he and his buddies in the back would be
Would
doing
be
the actual
typing.
chatting, because they spoke English. They knew exactly what guys want to hear. I mean, it's actually kind of genius, really.
Yeah.
Um, except that you're scamming the customers who think they're talking to a girl. Do they really care? I think if they find out they're talking to a guy, they're not going to be happy. So I do think that's fraudulent, but maybe some customers don't care as long as she's hot and then the chat's fun. Maybe they don't give a shit who's chatting. I don't know. But these guys like David Elms, they're, I think, most women who did what I do did not go to Berkeley, did not have an MBA. I'm not saying I'm better, but I certainly am higher IQ than the average. And I think I'm also less compliant. I knew many women that did go and sleep with him, and he helped them out in return. Maybe that was smarter. Maybe I should have. I just couldn't. I can't. I'm not that kind of person. I cannot.
Mhm.
But some people are more submissive and docile. Maybe they want to be led. I think a lot of sex workers don't really want to do the administrative work. They'd rather have somebody else do it. I mean, I don't build my website, but the woman I hire to do it is a mom of 6 kids that I've known for 20 years. She works for me. She's in no way managing me, but I don't enjoy website design, so I do outsource some things that I don't find fun or interesting.
Right.
I wish I did. I wish I was a tech brain. I tried. I took one computer course in my MBA and I was horrible at it. But I outsource my legal work. I outsource my taxes, all that. But for him, I mean, he definitely wanted to fuck me. He said so many times. Because I was, when he started bothering me, I was at that beautiful age, 29, 30, you're gorgeous. And he's probably gossip on the internet's probably hearing that I was one of the greats because I was doing very well for myself in LA. And gossip gets around, right? Every industry
Mhm.
has got its gossip. So he probably simply wanted to know what the buzz was about and have it. And why not just be a client? He had money. Why not just be a client and hire me? I think some people's egos are so big they won't just get in line and do things fairly. They don't think they're replaceable. They think they're special. I mean, the beauty of having been a high-end companion is I am utterly aware of how unspecial I am because I dated men for like 2 or 3 years that would say they're in love with me, and then suddenly I get a phone call that they want me to provide a reference so they can see somebody else because they're just bored of me. And that's the rules. I have to be okay with that. That's the
Mhm.
game. Does it hurt your feelings? Of course. Um, but you maybe in the podcast world or the music world, when your star's shining, it's shining, and then suddenly you realize nobody cares about you for a while, and you got to come up with something new, right? Entertainment will keep you humble too.
Mhm.
Lots of no's, lots of emails that go unanswered. That's the case for all of us.
Yeah.
But this man, I think, I mean, he was quite smart. He invented a site called the Erotic Review, and it was essentially a searchable database of sex workers. You could enter any variable you could think of: blue eyes, tall, lives in this zip code, has this area code phone number, available late night, and bam, here's your options.
Right.
I mean, he built that. And so he was no dummy. But I think, and it's a low bar in the sex industry. If you're in companionship and stuff, if you're smart, there's not a lot of competition. So I think he also had too big of an ego, right? If he had worked in regular tech or like finance here in New York City, he would not have been the smartest guy in the room, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um,
So with that, having said that, um, do you feel that someone like him, because you said, why don't you just why don't you just become a client? Do you think there's some of that in him? What, like you said, with ego? Oh, I don't have to pay for it. Like
yeah,
I'm too good to, women want me. They throw themselves at me. I'm not paying. I'm sure there's some of that going on too. If
yeah.
he
There, I
thinks
mean,
he's
there had
probably
to be.
above all of you.
Well, sure. Everybody wants to buy things for cheaper prices, or everybody likes free stuff. Um, if 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 I went over to Hermes and they offered me a free Birkin bag, I'd take it. Um, sure. So he, even though he had money, free is always nicer than not free. So that's normal. But I don't know what went on in his head. I don't know. I mean, he ended up marrying and retiring an escort. They got divorced then when he did what he did to me. But I didn't realize at the time he was harassing me, he was actually engaged and then married to a former sex worker.
Wow.
She's now retired and has a corporate job and lives in LA, and her life is fine, and she's not with him. So he was capable of treating someone normally, I think. I don't know.
Maybe.
But
Yeah.
yeah, why? I think he just, so pimps, they really deeply hate women. It's usually a mother wound. Like if they saw their father beating up their mother and they couldn't defend her, there's an anger at her. Why did you stay? Why? And then there's an inability, a mental gymnastics. I can't hate my father because I'm dependent on him for life, and also he'll beat my ass because I'm just a little boy, and so I have to love him because that's the way I stay safe and alive, even though I know he's a monster. So this kind of familial mother wound stuff, a lot of them deeply, deeply hate women. Um, why? I don't know why it manifests differently than regular people who have our wounds and don't end up so hateful that we'd like to literally pimp people. But pimps, and I include these OnlyFans managers and the podcasts I've watched where they interview pimps. The common thread is a deep hatred of women, which is the only way that you can sell that service to other men and take the fee, is that you have to hate the woman, because you couldn't do it otherwise, right? You just couldn't do
Right.
that. If you didn't hate them, you couldn't do that. So and there are women madams who similarly, deep down, they really hate sex workers. There's one, she ran a site called Preferred 411. She lives in Toronto. She was a streetwalker in Honolulu as a teenager, and then she was a madam in Denver, Colorado. And then she moved back to Canada. She's a Canadian citizen, and became sort of an online madam. And her level of hatred for other sex workers was shocking.
And what do you
And
think
a lot
that's
of
attributed to?
pain in her life.
Self-loathing.
Teenage streetwalker, lots of abuse, had her own
Yeah.
pimp who did probably God knows what to her. I mean, there's just a lot of pain there, right? Unresolved pain. And yeah, I think, I don't know. I don't know how you could want to pimp another human being, but when I see this, as you do in societies, I think the mental gymnastics they do is that maybe I know some of the street ones, they think the workers need them, and I don't know if they're entirely wrong, because the workers are young and they're on the street, and if they don't have any protection, it would probably be pretty bad. Uh,
Especially today.
well, the obvious safest model is the brothel thing, the massage parlors in Canada. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
best. There's security, there's cameras, the clients can't fuck around. The Those workers, they've done plenty of academic studies. The workers in brothels, and we have one county in Nevada where we have them too, they have the best psychological outcomes, they have the best self-esteem, they have the best medical health because they get tested. The problem is that clients often don't like it because they can't push any boundaries. they can't. The girl won't break the rules for any guy. And then in America, because they're all paying their taxes and doing their licensing above board, they are very, very, very expensive. So the underground economy, kind of like with weed, it's the
Right.
underground economy is cheaper, more efficient, and the customer can kind of push the sellers around a little more because it's an underground economy, right?
Right, right. So I guess Amsterdam would be kind of a great example of a place that has legalized prostitution,
Yeah.
and they have like. By the way, this is a little caveat. I'm not speaking from personal experience on this one. I read and I watch videos on stuff. So I've kind of gone, I guess, in my own journey thinking about this. I went from kind of closed minded, like, yeah, it should be illegal, like, it's not right. But then as I get older, it's like, all right, so abortion's legal. So you can go out and have an abortion, but you can't have sex for money. So I mean, I know they're not the same thing, but like if we're truly talking my body, my choice, right?
Yeah.
Then in my mind, I'm sort of coming to a more libertarian slant on it, where if it's safe for both the client and the service provider, shall we say, and it's clean and it's all above board, then what's the problem?
Yeah. So I have felt like you at times where I was like, this is perfectly fine. And then sometimes I'm like, this is a disaster industry that should not exist. So, dude, I get it. And it's complicated like so many other things. Vices, gambling, alcohol, other caffeine, cigarettes, porn. You cannot criminalize them away. All you do is shove them on the ground. They don't disappear because addiction is stronger than the law. People do prostitution in places where it's punishable by death, like some of the Middle Eastern countries. It's still rampant and you get killed for doing it there. So that's how strong the drive is. And
Right.
it's the same with other vices. Now, the bodily autonomy argument, right. Same as abortion. This is a complex one because abortion, yes, it is. I don't. I look at abortion as criminalizing it. Also, doesn't get rid of it. The way you want to get rid, and everyone wants less abortion. Everybody does. Everybody's sane
I would
should.
hope so. Yeah,
Well,
I
yeah.
would hope so.
But the way you do that is you have more prophylaxis and you have more things like Plan B that prevent fertilization, right? And we are doing that. That's why, at least in this country, Obama mandated every state have Plan B. No questions asked. A man can go buy it. They don't ask you for ID. $40.
You don't need a prescription or
Nope. If a condom broke, you go take it within 72 hours. Nothing. No fertilization. No baby. Um, and people do that all the time. They got drunk, they didn't use a condom, whatever. Shit happens, right?
yeah.
You're young and horny. So that's a godsend that has prevented abortion, and it should continue. And as we have more and more methods to prevent abortion, ideally it would go towards zero because it's a tough issue
Yeah.
because you're correct. It's my body, my choice, but there is another body there. There
Yes.
is.
Yes.
And the same can be said of when abolitionists talk about outlawing prostitution. The argument is if the client is married, there's another person there. There's the wife who typically did not consent to this situation, right?
Right.
Now, sometimes the wife is cool with it. Sometimes she's there. I've had that. Sometimes the guy's not married. That about more than half of my clients were not married. When they were, and they were simply lying to their wife, yeah, that feels like shit. I'm a human. It doesn't feel good. But you know what else feels like shit? Homelessness and not being able to buy groceries.
Mhm.
That is not a dignified position to be in either. So poverty takes away all your dignity. It is not easy to make dignified decisions. And abortion is a bit of a decision like that. Women will chew their leg off like a fox in a trap when they don't want to have a baby. And that's what happened when we did have it illegal. We already have the data on what happens when we make it illegal because we've done that. It did not get rid of abortion. There was plenty of it, but it was back alley, unsafe. Women died, babies died. It was criminal, underground economy, organized crime, same shit that happens every time you criminalize anything. You actually do
Right.
not you cannot criminalize, you cannot spite and punish your way into a utopia that you might like. To change cultural norms is a slow process. They're doing that with things like the Nordic model, where some countries are kind of just trying to make guys feel like it's not really that cool to pay for sex. Is that having the desired results? If the desired result is to minimize prostitution, I guess we'll see. It's new.
Yeah.
Obviously, if women have jobs and their own money, then you'll have less prostitution because there'll be fewer desperate women willing to fuck to pay rent, right?
Right.
So the sexually free societies where men get laid the most easily are places like Scandinavia, where they're very equal, and guys don't even have to pay for dinner there because women have just as much money as they do. So
Right.
uh, so if you want a society where women will never get on their knees and suck dick for money, then you want a society where women have jobs and their own jobs and money.
Right.
Um, if there's going to be a rightward conservative swing back in the world, which is what it looks like is happening, you are going to see more prostitution, not less. For instance, Latin America, deeply conservative, deeply Catholic, tons and tons of prostitution, tons.
Right.
Because if you're a poor woman, that's all you have to trade on because you don't really have access to like actual employment very much because you're a woman.
Right. Yeah.
So,
So,
which way do you want it? I don't know, man. People are
yeah.
always going to find a way to survive. If people are starving and they
Oh
can't
yeah.
over their head, it doesn't matter what you tell them to do.
So your points about vices are good because if you think about in America in the 90s, the war on drugs, what did that accomplish other than a shitload of people in prison for a long time for bullshit reasons, right?
Yeah.
And
Prohibition was a
prohibition was the same thing. Like it's gambling. Weed, like you said, is the same. Like weed is legal here in Canada. Thank goodness for that. But even with that though, if you go to a government weed shop, it's way more expensive because it's taxed to the nth degree, right? So
have your guy just come to your house like delivery. It's nicer, right?
yeah, and there are some places in Canada that I call them gray market. That's where I get my stuff shipped from, right?
Yeah.
Like because it's about half, maybe less than half the cost. So of course, like you said, you like saving money, you like free stuff. It's not free, but anyway, that's neither here nor
Australia allows the brothel model, the in-call, but a lot of guys are like, dude, I had business meetings all day. I'm at a hotel. I'm a tourist visiting. I want what we call out call. I want her to come to the Hyatt and
right.
have a cocktail and have some nice time and then get the fuck out of my room. And so they are still breaking the law even there because
It's not in the brothel.
they don't want to go to a brothel and see a bunch of other dudes and have people see their license plate. They don't want that.
No kidding.
I mean, Ecuador had these places where you drive into a garage and the door shuts and you go upstairs into the girl's like little apartment so that no one else would see your car. I mean,
Yeah,
right.
well,
Big government tends to do things expensively and badly. This is true.
yes.
Thomas Jefferson in my country he liked the federal system of states because he thought one big government would be a nightmare, and that's usually true. We had a healthcare website under Obama that they couldn't even get the website to work. It was a big story like a decade ago. Because they just couldn't even build a website.
Well, that's let's go back to COVID now.
Oh.
In Canada, our government, our esteemed leader Justin Trudeau, go fuck yourself, Justin Trudeau.
He's hot though. I'll give him that. But that's like all he is.
Not a great politician. But anyway, so
didn't he basically win because of his dad?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And because he's hot.
Yeah. And so they created this app called ArriveCan. That was for if you were traveling out of the country or you had to check in and show your vaccine pass, all this bullshit, right? They spent, I can't remember what the amount of money was, but it was in the tens of millions of dollars trying to get this thing going. And then two students from a university here built the same thing in a weekend.
That's hilarious.
So like you said, anything government touches, big government generally goes to shit.
Yes.
And we've seen that with the war on drugs, just mass incarcerations of, people spending life in prison for weed. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, and, people inherently always want to be freer. If countries get too oppressive, people emigrate. I mean, my father did. He left Europe because he was tired of their meddling. Mm-hmm. He wanted to be free. He came here. And also government, it just gets too big. And anytime something is just too big, it's hard to keep it lean and mean and running smooth, right?
Yeah.
It's too
Yep.
big.
Yep. Yep. And it's
Or it
yeah,
has to be
did
top down oppressive. I mean, China is massive and runs a tight ship, but that's because they have no freedom.
that's right.
Not none, you know what I mean? That's hyperbole. But like
Yeah.
top down oppressive government works in big giant places or geographically large places like Canada. You have a massive amount of land to manage. But I think us, gringos, Europeans, we're a feisty bunch. I don't know that we would settle for collectivism. It's not
Mm,
who we are, man.
no, I don't think so. I don't
I
think so.
I'm like I think I can speak to you that I feel like I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees, man.
Oh, hell yeah. Absolutely. And the thing about government in especially Canada, the US, it's so different from one part of the country to the other.
Yes,
Like if you're in British Columbia, your life, your needs, your issues are different than they are in Newfoundland
for sure.
or Ontario or wherever.
Yeah.
So one organization trying to manage the diverse needs of so vast a country. Like I was just going to say, I don't know how Putin does it in Russia, but he's practically a dictator, so that's how he does it.
Yeah.
But
And they've
but
got like 5 people.
otherwise, it's tough. Yeah. Otherwise, it must. I don't envy that job. So that's kind of where I like the idea of more state or province, in my case,
Yeah.
autonomy.
Yes.
Because, if you're from Ontario, you kind of know. Now, even that's different because way up in Northern Ontario, I'm in Northern Ontario, but Northern Ontario goes way up north from where I am. Their needs are different from people in Toronto,
For
right?
sure.
So, yeah. Anyway, I didn't mean to make this a political discussion, but it's
No,
just
I mean, look, whether people love to say they're not political, but politics is interested in you, whether you like it or not.
that's right.
And I have voted both ways. I'm registered to vote, but I don't register with a party, so I can't vote in our primary elections. I can just and I was no fan of Trump's vulgarity. I was no fan of Kamala's history as a prosecutor. Um, we didn't have great candidates this year. And again, I've never tried to run a country. God knows they're probably all better at it than I would ever be. But again, I'm smart enough to know I can't, so I don't try.
That's
Because what
right.
kind of goddamn narcissist do you have to be like I should run a country? Yes, me. It should be
This
me.
guy. Yeah. Who
And I
knows how to run a country? This guy.
well, and COVID was so weird because for every person that wanted freedom and was like, "Look, I'll wash my hands and I'll stay away from my 95-year-old grandma and let me live," there were people who just wanted to be told what to do because people have very different reactions to fear. It's
Hmm.
interesting. I was sort of on the side of anger and let me go to the gym but I know many who were just all about lockdown and a lot of them were getting the free grant money, so it was kind of a paid vacation. um, you know there was this PPP money, at least in America, that a lot of people got a ton of money for doing nothing, and that
Hmm.
they were okay with that. Um, but I it depends how individualistic versus collective you are, and you even see that in sex work. The street girls, they're usually very young, very wild. They know that's dangerous out there, but they're wild and young, and you can't tell them
They
shit.
feel untouchable.
They're 17. It's a disaster, of course, but when you try to tell them it's not a good idea, we were all young. I don't know if you were I was a moron when I was that
Oh,
age.
I was a
It's
moron
amazing I'm
until
not
about
dead.
5 years ago.
Yeah, I'm still obviously still, but like we're all, yeah, and I think the hardest thing is to have empathy and to live together. I think you're correct. The future might be better as kind of villages, so to speak, provinces, states that can be cities, whatever, be a little more cohesive in culture, and then the ability to move between them
Right.
as your needs change, right?
Right. So
Uh,
let's go back a little bit to when you first started doing what you were doing back then. So you make this decision. Hey, I'm going to check this out. Um, so I'm assuming you do some research. You figure out how you're going to get started. So what is it like that first time? Are you shitting yourself? Are you excited? Are you nervous? All of the above.
yeah, I mean, so he was pretty well known. so on the internet, I knew exactly who I would meet, and I was going to a place that was very fancy and vetted him, and he was probably more worried about me. And when I met him, I probably should have been more intimidated because he was a billionaire, but I felt like I'm the one that got he asked me to be here. So I have power too, even though I'm nobody financially. I'm the one that got invited here, and
Right.
he was considerably older but dashing, you know. These rich guys, they smell like heaven. I don't know what kind of goddamn lotion and cologne rich guys use, but they smell good.
Probably costs more than a car than my car for a bottle,
Oh, I'm
whatever it is.
sure. Right. That yellow one from Italy that they all wear. It's like they get some rich guy memo. But of course he was nice, and you know, they're when guys like that are so accomplished, I think it's a funny thing for them to like feed you stuff they know you've never eaten and show you stuff, and it's a bit parental, and I guess that's kind of creepy, but it's a win-win, right? And I don't think he expected that it would be true that I really was a grad student, that I really did have a degree in science. So I think he was kind of shocked that I wasn't another LA actress type. But I had to market what I had, which was the brainy and the friendly and the from a pretty good family, because what I didn't have was the 10 out of 10 looks like a runway model. I'm cute, but those girls they're much prettier. So I kind of knew my demographic. I'm like, if somebody wants somebody smart and emotionally available and friendly and from a good family and actually educated, they're gonna like me. If they want a 6 foot tall runway model who is a 10 and who's super fashiony, and they're not gonna like me at all. Or if they want somebody wild who like does drugs all night and is super party girl, they're gonna think I'm so lame because that's not me. But it turned out there were 2 or 3 people who liked me for years, and then we had a great night, and I didn't want to leave, and I felt fascinated by him. I mean, I was like, dude, other people pay to have dinner with this guy, and I'm sitting here, and I understand what I was there for. I know, but that was fun. I was lonely and out and had broken up with somebody a few months ago. I was eager to have a nice date, and it was great. Um, and we saw each other for years. Sometimes the mental gymnastics when you think, because you spend this kind of time with somebody, that you're actually like friends and you know each other. um it's funny that you get reminded sometimes that you are not that big of a part of their life, even though they're very nice to you. You are no more important to them than like the driver that picked them up at the airport, right?
And so,
So you like, because sometimes, so later, years later, I saw his plane on the tarmac. I was teaching a student, and I texted and was like, "Hey, I don't mean to bother you, but I see you guys over there." And he said, "Who is this?"
oh, ouch.
I said, "Oh, it's Amy. You know, we dated for a bunch of years." And he said, "Amy who?"
Oh no.
And I was like, "Dude, I dated you for years. We went all over the world together." And I was reminded, the crazy Russian guy, he said once to me, he said, "Never forget that you're just entertainment."
Right.
I said, "Ouch." Yeah,
Yeah.
but you are. And I said, I don't buy that, because I never thought my clients were just a paycheck. Yes, I needed to survive. I have bills just like you and everybody else. I can't pay my bills with smiles. I need money. But I never thought, "Oh, this guy's just a source of income and I don't give a shit about who he is." I never felt that way. Never. Um, I don't think people should be treated like that, even in business, right?
Right.
It's you can't reduce people to just tools. They're humans, and that's deeply precious, no
Right.
matter how you know them.
Yeah.
You do sometimes find out they're lying. I saw one for years who would, supposedly totally in love with me and blah blah blah, and then his wife busted him. That was real fun. She called me. I got yelled at for hours. I let her because she was right to do so.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Well, and his attempt to save his ass in divorce and not lose half his money, which is what happened. She did leave him, which is fine. He tried to tell her that he was not dating me at all. I was a stalker, that he didn't know me, and they should press charges and get a restraining order against me. Uh, Obviously, you know, I had gone all over the world with this guy for 5.5 years. I had texts and emails telling me I love you. He had been to my house. I had been to his. Like, none of that would have been he would not have been able to get any kind of.
Right.
But his desperate attempt to keep lying to his wife, he tried to tell her that I was like some kind of stalker. It was an insane thing to say. Uh, and she asked, and I laughed, of course. And so I realized that sometimes they are simply performing and lying, and none of it is real.
Right.
And maybe that's okay. They just wanted an escape from life and to have fun. And maybe they didn't ever care about me at all. Maybe it was just the obvious. Maybe they're bad people, but there's bad people here and there.
Mhm.
And also, a lot of people are both good and bad, right? I think all of us do good and bad things.
Yep.
But it is interesting when you find out, well, and who wouldn't think a person who could lie to the mother of their children who could not lie to me? Duh.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So I suppose, fuck me for not thinking that it obviously could be a giant pile of bullshit. But anyway, this particular person, I wish him well. I understand that he was probably just desperate and looking at losing a ton of money.
Yeah.
But
So-
what if she had said, "Let's go to the police station"? I mean, again, it would have all been fine, but it would have caused me a lot of headaches.
Would have been ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's all over the map. It's dating. I don't know if you're married or dating, but it's dating, and it
Yeah.
comes with drama sometimes.
Oh God. Yes, it does. So getting back to the billionaires, and not specifically about the one billionaire, just in general, do you feel, or did you feel, the more famous or the more rich somebody was, did it make you feel safer about them, or did it not really matter?
I mean, odds are some dude who's that well known, and he's not gonna he's not gonna cause any
He's not going to roll you up in a rug, and no.
Well, it's odd. Why? They have too much to lose. Like, if you misbehaved, or if you were crazy or mean, or they would probably just throw some cash at you and you would cease to exist in their lives. They don't have time for bullshit.
Yeah.
That said, the son of a billionaire hired me twice, and he was legitimately insane. He liked drama. I think he must have been a drug addict looking back on it, like hard drugs. I'm not talking about nice drugs like weed. Like, I think he must have been, but I don't know. I never saw it, but his behavior was absolutely out of control. The last appointment, he threw the money at me, and I was a broke grad student. I picked it up because I needed it. it. And that was so humiliating. Then I had the ability to never have to see him again. He begged for like a year. I was proud of myself for turning down money, even though I needed it. I'm glad I didn't let him have me again. Because he liked to hurt your feelings and call you names and denigrate you. That was the fun he was having.
Mm-hmm.
And he had an amazing life because daddy was a billionaire. Must be nice. But most of them are just workaholics that they like pretty things and pretty people, and they've got idiotic amounts of money, so why not?
And do you think that's what's in it for them in most cases?
Yeah, I think people use their resources to make their lives better if they can afford better clothes, better food, better
artwork.
Yeah, all that. Yeah. Cars, homes. I mean, and frankly, some super high-end escorts are pretty amazing women. I mean, I know attorneys, I know medical students, and they look like models, and they're spectacular. I mean, if you can afford to date them, yeah, you'd want to. I sure would if I was gay and could afford it. Neither gay, also not rich enough. But yeah, I think safer, sure. I mean, like more middle management guys were kind of easier to relate to because I grew up kind of upper middle class, so we had kind of more similarities. But if people were too poor, the problem would become the money. They just couldn't afford it. And I was really good at my job, so they always wanted to see me a lot. Everybody always did. And that was a problem if they just couldn't afford it. And that sometimes made them angry, and that would cause me a headache.
Right.
So I didn't, and seeing people for super cheap, how's that fair to me? Then I gotta never retire. I don't ever get to have a nice home. I don't ever get to have a savings. That's not fair.
Yeah.
I'm giving people my life. I deserve to be well paid. Otherwise, I'm going to go do something easier for a living, right?
Right.
This is supposed to pay well because society judges you forever. it is sort of dangerous. Your reputation gets ruined. So like, why would you do it if it didn't pay well, right?
Right. Have you
Uh,
ever seen the Have you ever seen the video of the guy whose job it is to climb? I see this on the internet all the time. His job is to climb this massive tower and change the light bulb at the top. It's like
that's
hundreds
the
of
job.
feet. That's his job. He has to do it like twice a year, and he makes like 30 grand each time or something because it's so dangerous. And so it kind of, I just thought of that because
Yeah.
it kind of reminds me of what you're talking about.
Well, yeah.
If you're going to put yourself in dangerous situations, and if you're good at what you do, then you charge more, right? Like it's
Well,
simple
and
business, isn't it?
it's for what it costs you, right? I
Yeah.
mean, uh, you later in life have fewer prospects. You might, in some countries, you might end up with an arrest record. You might end up with a disease. You know, the costs are high, can be high.
Hmm.
Um, so I think, yeah, say for some super rich guys, they want to do drugs. Those kind of guys never liked me because that's not my lifestyle. But I think that can be a slippery slope because the party girls end up, that's a wild life, but it's super fun. Um, I did cater to a few very rich gambling addicts, and that was weird because when they lose, they like aren't very fun to be around.
Yeah.
Um, they're just moody, and they'll go to sleep. And like one was Asian, and he thought I was bad luck. I was like, um, yeah, I think it's. I think people use what they got if they've got good looks. You know, like I know a country singer who he would play you this song that everybody knows late at night. And dude, that works. And he knew it. You use what you got, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think if a person has money, that is something that people like to be around. But I heard one guy mumble under his breath once. We were getting on his plane with a bunch of his friends, and he mumbled something. He's like, "Oh, I'm just a paycheck to everybody else, right?" So, well, but you like being the big, heavy, successful one. I mean, you could have let everybody buy plane tickets. You're the one who chartered the plane, right? You
Hmm.
didn't have to. So if you like being everybody's provider, then you kind of can't complain about it, right? It's, it's like women when they wear the skimpy outfit to the gym and then they get mad that the guy looked at them. Well, what the fuck?
Yeah, I've seen those
Like,
videos too.
right? Like
So
pick one, ladies. Like,
I've got eyes and I have blood flowing through my body, and you're wearing that, and I'm not
yeah.
supposed to look. Like, come
Oh
on.
my god. I look at them like with the
Yeah.
weird the butt. What's going on with the butts of these pants now? I
Oh,
sound
I don't know.
old,
It's
but
so weird.
that is
So
too
weird.
much butt crack. I can see your whole life, lady. It's cool. And you know what? They're great butts. You know, when you're 22 and you got a butt like that, do it. But we did not dress like that when I was,
Yes, but then don't complain when guys are looking at you. Like,
right? Well, there's kind of
well, there's looking, and then there's, I mean, I guess there's
yeah.
degrees of it, right? Like, there's a little glance, but then there's leering. Like, so I get it, but if you dress that way going in there, you kind of know what's
Dude.
going to happen.
And like a full beat makeup and your hair extensions done, like why'd you do all that if you
Put a
don't want
potato sack on, like.
I mean, right? Like, well, but I think there's always, so we all want to trust people because we're all scared babies inside. And so when you're a rich guy, you do have more money. Also, rich guys like to do nice things because they're rich and none of their friends can keep up and they don't want to go stay at the Holiday Inn where their friends can afford. So
Right,
they have to pay for everything because they don't want to go where everybody else can afford to go.
right.
So that's kind of how it happens is that they end up footing the bill because they're the one who wants to go to the Four Seasons, right? Which is fine. But right, you can't be mad about the way things are if you're the one who engineered them that way. I think that's, or you can, I guess, sometimes I've had that thought of like that my biology degree, I couldn't even make enough to pay my bills. And yet just starving myself and staying as hot as I could for my age was so easy to survive.
Hmm.
And that's not great, right? I should have been able to be a scientist and survive, but I couldn't. It paid 29 grand a year. I was starving.
Well, and if you look at the way the economy is now with inflation and all that, there's going to be a lot of, and you're what, 21, let's say 21, 22 years old. you're just graduating school or you're in school, you're not going to be able to afford a house in most places, especially like cities.
No.
You're so what are you gonna do? Like,
Well, the obvious thing is you move in, you marry somebody, and you share the bills. But we had this kind of weird blip from the 1970s to now, like 40 years of like people being very independent, which is a total anomaly. We used to have to live with our families pretty much from birth to death, right? We didn't get to go
all
get
out on the homestead with, you
yeah, we
know,
didn't go get a one bedroom in Toronto and like
yeah,
live it up as a yuppie. That wasn't a thing.
yeah,
In fact, monogamy is actually very rare and very recent. Usually you lived with your tribe. The alpha king of the village had whoever he wanted, and everybody else just kind of did whatever they could to survive and not get killed. I mean, we built some systems that are lovely, but the independent system that we built with this incredible economic boom of the last 50 years, I don't know. Maybe it's not going to last. I mean, maybe
mm,
multi-generational living that would obviously offset the cost, but people got spoiled and they didn't want to have to live with grandma, right?
right. I kind of think there's a bit of a pendulum effect that goes on in a lot of things. Politics, because in Canada we've had 10 years of Trudeau now. Everybody's fed
10?
up.
Aren't
10,
there
yeah.
term limits?
2000, nope,
You
nope.
don't have term limits?
Nope. You can be the
I
prime
didn't know
minister
that.
for 100 years if you want.
He's just
Um,
like a dictator?
well, not. He kind of acts like one sometimes, but the thing is that in Canada we seem to go with this pendulum thing, right? So we've had 9 years of Trudeau Liberals, and then people get fed up, and then they vote in the Conservatives, and then we'll have probably 8, 9 years of them.
Mm-hmm.
People get fed up, then we'll go back. So I think we're kind of a time of that now. And what you said about living with your whole family in one farmhouse or whatever kind of led me to a question of are you familiar with this trend of what are being called trad wives?
Sure.
Yes. So I think that's a reaction because there seems to have been like a on in some level like a war on the family and a war on religion. I'm not a particularly religious guy, but it seems to be really being demonized now. And my whole thing is, even though I'm not religious, the one thing I will say is that you go to church on Sunday, there's that feeling of community. You
Mhm.
see people, hi, how was your week? You go have a cup of coffee afterwards, you take in the message, you go home feeling good. You've
Yep.
seen, and there seems to be like an attack on that, but now the pushback against that has me concerned that now we're going to go the other way with the pendulum. And these trad wives are, I'm not going to work. I'm going to stay at home and have 8 kids. Hey, if that's what you want, great. I don't have a problem with that, but not as a reaction to something else. Like,
Yeah,
you
you're
know what I
right. I
mean?
think a lot of things are reactions to other things. I've seen that content. I mean, I am also not into organized religion, but I also agree that it is nice to get a message of morality. It is nice to get in touch with. I live across the street from a church, and sometimes I go in and light a candle for someone I love, and I do feel good. And I won't apologize for that. My personal relationship with God, the ether, the great beyond, whatever you want to say, is my own and it's private. Um, but whether it's temple, mosque, church, whatever people are doing, faith is an important part of life. We tend to all get more religious as we get toward the end of our lives, right? Because we're hoping there's something.
Yep.
And it also has a sort of control effect of a lot of people. It's the reason they behave nicer because they don't want to disobey God. So that's helpful. I don't think you need that. You could just not harm people because people
Yeah.
matter,
Just
but
be a
whatever.
good person. Yeah.
Well, but a lot of people, if they think there's no God and no anything, then they're like, well, why shouldn't I just be a shitbag? And
Yeah.
I think that's awful, but it's not illogical.
No.
Yes, I think the key, the thing, all the things you're saying, that it seems to me the common thread is empathy of saying that other people are not me and I am not, so they should do what they like as long as it doesn't affect me. Now, I understand
Mhm.
that's not completely possible. We have to agree on some stuff. Like, we all got to stop at red lights, otherwise, it's chaos, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Some things, but, and it'll always be imperfect, but you're right. If I got a lot of career girlfriends here in Manhattan. They're young and super successful and they're working hard. And I'll tell you, a lot of them they want to meet a man and have a baby. They don't want to keep making $1 million a year in sales.
Working 80 hours a week and
They're miserable and they're lonely. They're sad. And yes, they got a lot of money and they're going out to dinners and they got all the clothes but every single girl I've met here in New York City in the 2 years that I've lived here now, who's in her 20s or early 30s, all of them want a baby. They just don't know how to afford it.
Right.
And trying to like build a life with a man and move in together and get married and make that baby, they're on the apps, they're dating, they both go fuck other people and then they hate each other and then no relationship, right? And the whole thing is a mess, right? I think, but deep down, the eternal stuff of everybody wanting love, everybody wanting communion. You're correct. The pendulum swings back and forth. I think we did reward women a lot for being child free. There was almost this shaming of mothers in the 80s, the greed is good years. There was this thing of like, I'm a career woman. I don't need no man. And I'm not
boss bitch and all that.
Yeah, all that. And,
yeah.
And that's because it was new. Women didn't have access to their own money. You know, within my lifetime, a woman wasn't allowed to get a credit card or a home loan in America without a male cosigner. That's within my lifetime.
Right.
And so when we first had money, we were like, holy shit, I can like leave my husband if he's beating me up. I can, you know, pay for my own kids' school without, and that was very exciting because it was new. We'd never done this before.
And there's a birth control pill that I can go out and have sex with whoever I want and not get pregnant. That's not bad either.
And control when I have a kid so I can build my career.
Exactly. Yeah.
We do these new things. I think this, most men I know are totally okay with a woman contributing income and having a job. I don't think most men want a trad wife. The ones who do, fine, go, cool, move to Utah, have a trad wife, all good, I don't care. But a lot of men, at least economically, they're like, sure, if she contributes income and she gets to have adult interactions and she, you know, maybe works part-time or something, that's completely cool with me. The answer to where we go from here, I don't think is to try to go straight back to something we did before. I think it's to find something new. And what I reject, though, is the current thing of thinking that men are not needed and not useful, because we definitely need men. I live in a 120-year-old skyscraper. You think it was a sorority that built this fucking thing? It was men. It was men.
Yeah.
Outside on the street in the cold, laying fiber optics and over the steaming manholes when it's snowing. It's men. Mm-hmm. Staten Island men who can't even afford to live in this city, and they're building it all for us. Yeah. So when women say that men are useless or even evil, and men, a lot of young men, like my nephew is 22 and he's trying to figure out how is he needed, because the men used to know how they were needed. I'm a family man, I'm a provider, this is my wife, this is my kid, this is my job. I know the rules. This is what I do. I'm a man. And my poor nephew now is like, do I just play video games all day and say, fuck it, forget women? Yep. He still wants a wife and a baby someday, but he's trying to figure out how do I be needed? Mm-hmm. And
I would not want to be a young man right now. Like there's brutal. It's tough. It's tough. My son is 20. He's trying to make his way. He wants to be a mechanic. So but he told me a story. He told me a story once. This is when he was in middle school. So he would have been 12, 13. Mm-hmm. He held the door open for a girl in his class. Mm-hmm. And she walked through and said, I don't need no man to hold the door for me. And he was upset about it. Yeah. And I said, buddy, you just keep being the polite, respectful young man holding the doors for people. If they don't like it, that's their problem. Like someone is in their ear somewhere telling them this.
Yeah.
And, she will probably grow up wanting a man that holds the car door open. You know what I mean? And that wants that chivalry and that manliness or whatever you want to call it. So I just said, like, do not change, because that's who you are. You're a nice kid. You're a good kid. Someone will appreciate that.
The solution to a changing landscape is not for men to try to become women. It's to find what masculinity means now that women have a paycheck, which they didn't used to. What does that mean to be a man now that money is going to be slightly, or maybe 50-50, or maybe your wife will be richer than you. Who knows?
Mhm.
You're nice looking. Go get a sugar mama. Go for it. You could. Not that I don't judge you. Women have been doing that for millennia. You can
I don't
too.
know about that.
It's a lot. Trust me, it's a
Yeah,
lot.
I don't think so. I think
You earn every penny when you do
I'll
that.
pass that.
I mean, just an old 90-year-old billionaire lady, and then you just wait for her to die. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Uh,
But yes, I mean, this trying, and so some men who like think the solution is for them to be act like women and be more feminine. No woman wants that. Ask women. None of them want a guy who's more feminine. They all
yeah,
want masculine men. Even these ardent feminists who claim they do.
yeah.
So
So I think,
we'll shake it out. We'll
oh,
get.
we'll figure it out. Yes, but I agree. It's not. You don't want to react like a boomerang, and like, oh, this new stuff is happening. I'm not sure how to take it. I'm scared. We better go back to the way it was 30. Like, no, that's obviously not the right way to do it,
No.
because the world has changed forever. Women are not going to go back to being in the kitchen and not working and all that. So
Some
let's figure it out. Like,
I'd like a world where it's diverse. If you want to do that and be completely traditional, great. If you want to not work and be I have a friend, he's a stay-at-home dad because the wife is like a major CFO of a huge company. So, and they love it. I
mhm,
think the key is, work it out, and it can change. My sister and her husband, sometimes she's made more, sometimes he's made more.
mhm,
They're 26 years of partnership of lifting each other up as per whatever's needed.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so you have to, I think, love people more than you want to win,
yeah.
Do you want to win? Because if you win, you end up alone. I used to see this major company CEO who he wanted everything, but he was the loneliest man. And yeah, had a lot of money, a lot of power, but family that barely spoke to him. No,
Yeah. Money doesn't hug you at night.
that's a great way to say it. So,
So let's get into, I want to talk a little bit. We sort of touched on it a bit about modern day women and men
mhm.
and social media and all that sort of stuff.
Oh boy.
Because I'm on all of them. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on, and I'm scrolling through, and when I see some, just a random reel from a girl, she could be like 18, 19, wearing practically nothing,
Huh? Yeah.
and
I'm getting water. Uh-huh.
I'm a guy. I'm like, oh, I notice. I'm not gonna lie and say I don't notice it.
Of
But then
course.
I think, if I was an 18-year-old guy
Uh-huh.
and that was my girlfriend, that would be rough, man. Because
Yeah, some guys like it. Some
so
guys,
I'm sure they do.
girls
I
like
wouldn't.
them
I
on.
would. I would not. But
Yeah. That'd be tough for me if my guy was like, I dated a male model, and women would straight up just hit on him while I was at the dinner table. They would just like drop their business card. I'm like, dude, hello, I'm here. They didn't care.
quick aside. Do you think women are worse about that than men?
Probably, I don't know.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't his fault because this is
Well,
this
yeah.
before social media, so he wasn't doing anything except being like
Being there.
absurdly
Yeah.
good looking. It wasn't his
Yeah.
fault.
Yeah.
Um, if he had been nowadays standards, I mean, his DMs, I wouldn't even want to
Oh,
look because it would crush. Can you
oh,
imagine if you
absolutely.
saw it? You'd never. Yeah, we're jealous creatures, right? I mean, we are, but the Instagram baddies, they're not posting for fun. They're posting usually because it's their job.
Right.
So, I mean, typically,
Or they
like,
want it to be their job. Yeah.
yeah, you're right. Are they really it's a very bad job for most of them that isn't making much money, but they're getting free bikinis or free fucking whatever.
Right. Makeup or
Um,
whatever. Yeah.
and attention feels good. Everyone wants it. I know that in a visual medium like a computer screen, the more physically appealing one is always going to get all the attention, and that's going to be an 18-year-old woman. She's going to win that game every single time,
Right.
especially if she's blonde and white and with a great body. You are not going to beat her at attention, and men are never going to get more. Men have to learn to fill a different need because she is going to get the attention. And
Yeah.
yeah, with some societies, what they do is put them in burqas and lock them down. And yeah, we could do that. We could cover them up. We could make it. We could go Iran, where they used to have women wear skirts, and now they wear the beekeeper suit.
Hmm.
What will happen is that all the brightest and best women would leave. They would emigrate to where they're freer. So, like, we could be a theocracy, right? Canada, and we could go that. We could go Iran, and then men would not be scared of another guy looking at their woman. But the best and brightest women, the doctors, the lawyers, all of them would go to Europe,
Yeah.
right, or Asia, or wherever they're free. And the economy would crash and all that, but men would be happy in their broke ass loser country, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
Again,
So
right? Or do you want to be happy? But
exactly.
I think the key is, if you have somebody who has a public job, your girlfriend is a model or an actress, you have to remember that she's coming home to you and she's sucking your dick, not theirs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless you like
So
it. If she's a porn star, then she really is sucking dick, but that's a whole different thing.
that's a whole different story.
Dude, most of those people are married.
Yeah. That's
I
crazy.
mean,
Oh God, man, I could not.
I agree. It
Um,
would not. It would not
yeah.
work for me. But
Yeah.
everybody's the same, right?
That's right. Yeah. So another aspect of the whole social media thing is, yeah, it can be tough on guys, but I also think about how tough it must be for young girls because they're seeing other girls on this app. And she, like you said, she's getting the free bikinis, she's getting all the attention, she's maybe getting
Yeah.
paid
Vacations.
vacations, and
Show the guy who's paying for it.
yeah, and other girls
Hashtag tag your sponsor.
yeah, now feel
Less
the
than.
pressure of how do I live up to that?
I get ads every day for shapewear to represent. I've had lipo. It's surgery. It's not the shapewear. So when women are watching my stuff and saying she looks like amazing, I should buy this product, the truth is a doctor made my body.
Mm-hmm. And
it's not good, right? Because they're
right.
thinking, why don't I look like that? Well, I would tell them, if you've got 15 grand and 6 months of recovery, you can look exactly like this.
Yeah. And I think about the peer pressure of that. And because, we all went through peer pressure and all that. But at the end of the day, we could go home from school and shut ourselves out from it if we wanted to. You can't do that now. No. You cannot shut yourself, because what kid is going to put down their phone from 3:30 until the next morning? They're just not. So they're always being bombarded by images, and it must just be a minefield for young men and women today.
Yeah. Well, it's very hard because when you're young, you have big dreams. Parents told you were special. You still think you're going to be the president / doctor / astronaut. Life has a way of beating that out of you. You find out you're probably not going to be those things, and you'll have an okay life, but you're not going to be, all. That's tough. When you're young, you have your whole future ahead of you, and it's tough to find out you're not number one. You're not. And we didn't used to have to see it in front of our faces quite as easily. Like the private jet world, those people used to be quiet. They didn't say. And now you go on their Instagram and you can see that Gulfstream window right behind them, right? So they don't fly like you fly. That is tough. I'm a brunette. I lost all kinds of modeling jobs to blondes all the time. They get much more work more easily because blonde hair lights up the picture and it sells. If you see it on a old-fashioned newsstand, your eyes will go to the blonde first because her hair is lighter. It's yellow color shows up first over dark. Right. And so that used to infuriate me that there was nothing I could do. And it's not just the blonde, it's the ethnicity, the shape, the Scottish looks, they sell better. Right. And that is very tough to realize that you're going to be on the B list or the C list or the D list. I think it's important to be humble. It's important to know when you're not number one. And that requires a level of acceptance that's difficult. If having dipped my toe in the lives of the rich, their lives are so much more fun that if everybody could see it, there would be a revolution tomorrow. Because it's disgusting how much nicer their lives are. Like, it's really disgusting.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The things they can do and the places they can go and these hotels that I was taken to that I didn't even fucking knew exist. Like, the food they eat. Like, I mean, it's obscene. It's obscene. And so, yes, when you see a guy who's a NHL hockey player, yeah, well, you don't have that talent. You don't get to be him. Sorry.
I know it all too well.
Yeah, right? I mean, it sucks because we all have egos. But you can derive satisfaction when your life is only on the B or the C list by realizing that a lot of the ordinary joys are actually pretty cool that they can't do. Like that I can just go to Whole Foods and nobody bothers me and takes pictures of me. That's a pleasure. Like, you know how many famous people want to go down the aisles of a grocery store and they can't
Hmm.
unless they shut it down after hours? Like, they can't do that.
Hmm.
Now, yes, it's definitely still better to be them for sure. But um, pretty women, yeah, the incredible difficulty of aging because you lose it, right? And it's like going from being a billionaire to being broke. And it's unavoidable because you cannot
It's
stay the
nature.
beautiful
Yeah.
18. She 100% of the time will lose it unless she dies, right? So,
Yeah. Do you want to be Jane Mansfield? She didn't
well,
lose it, but
yeah, Marilyn Monroe. Yeah,
yeah.
die a legend. But like every single one of those 18-year-old girls is living at the time when she has the most power. Being 18, blonde, white, skinny, gorgeous is like being a billionaire.
Yeah.
And so I hope they enjoy it because it's great.
Yeah.
But it is very important, and I'm not trying to be Schadenfreude, but they will lose it and they will have to find other things to be proud of and enjoy because that will fade. And that's okay. I think it's almost good that it does because life has a way of humbling you. I think all billionaires should be made to spend some time being poor.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think it'd be good for them.
For sure. So one of the obviously I think you mentioned her earlier, but the Haktua girl
Mm.
that that annoyed the shit out of me at the start because
Totally.
because here I am, like I'm putting on my
Grinding.
radio shows, my podcast, and getting like triple digit views or whatever, and thinking, what the fuck can I do to get more people to watch? And she makes a blowjob joke and is now everywhere. It's like, what the hell? But that,
I
I
don't even get it because, like, there's other blonde, cute girls they look just like her.
yeah,
I don't, I guess it was fun to say. So
I
people just
guess,
got so into it because
yeah.
it wasn't that
Wasn't
she
that
was,
funny? Like it wasn't. It was
I,
just
she
a
was,
blowjob remark. Like that was. I think that's the whole thing. A blonde girl made a joke
if you
about giving blowjobs. Like I think that was the whole thing.
ad
And
agencies, did you watch Mad Men when they used to talk
yeah,
about,
oh god, yeah.
well, a catchy hook? If something is fun to say, ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm
I'm
living,
loving it. Yeah,
dude, if something's fun to repeat, man, you got people. And
yeah.
it's like, why? I don't know.
Yeah, and now she's doing her podcast, and then so I kind of got over the bitterness of it, and then thought, you know what, go for it. I hope you get rich.
You know?
Maybe when you're a bit older, you'll use the money you make off of this to start a really important business. Like who knows where she'll go from here, right?
Yeah.
So I felt like I was judging her for something that she really didn't have anything. I mean, yeah, she made the joke, but I sure as hell don't think she thought this was going to happen.
I I can't think.
So
It wasn't that
yeah,
special.
that would have
Yeah,
been a hell of a plan. Like if that was the plan, that's a hell of a plan.
what
But
hits
either way, go for it and do good with
the
it.
the modeling photo that's made me the most money? I did not know it that day that it was the I don't know why people like I've asked people why do people like this particular image so much more than the others because it's not my favorite. I think knowing what hits, you just throw a lot of stuff at the wall and I admire that you don't compromise yourself because the obvious things that sell online are sex and
I ain't
rage.
making any money on that.
Well, you could always be never too late to be a porn star. Go for it.
For me, it's yeah.
Yeah.
That was never in the cards.
Yeah. No thanks. Me neither. That said, the only other thing that sells actually even better than sex is rage. The Rage
Yes.
podcast,
Oh
which,
yeah.
you're a white guy. It'd be perfect demographic for you. And I wouldn't judge you because you'd be getting rich and no shame.
Middle-aged white guy, know it well. A
Oh,
little past middle age, but yeah.
yeah, I mean, you'd have a bunch of other men on there and you'd just be angry and people would watch. And you do those super chats where other angry guys can call in and they pay you $50, $100, $150 and you read out their angry thing to a girl and insult her and all the guys go, "Yeah, get her." Yeah, easy way to get rich. Easy. But
Easy
you're
way to give
poison
myself an ulcer in a week too.
and you're poisoning the minds of other people. I mean,
Yep.
rage is addictive and it sells. It's an addiction, the adrenaline of it. But I think I admire actual creative artists who have limits on what they'll do for money. I mean, I guess some guy will marry Hawk Tuah and it'll be fine. Because it's not like she did porn or anything
Yeah.
illegal.
Yeah.
But it is going to be pretty weird for some dude later to be like, yeah, that's my wife.
Yeah. My wife's the Hawk too, a girl.
Maybe it won't matter by then. I don't know. I know a lot of retired sex workers and their husbands don't care as long as no one knows.
Yeah.
So their inner circle kind of knows, and now it's like ancient history, so who cares?
Right.
But what their husbands tend to be afraid of is, what if everyone at my office finds out? That's going to be really bad for my career
Yeah.
because it will.
Yep.
He's not going to get promoted. He's not going to get invited to the parties because the other wives are going to be like, ew, right?
Oh yeah. They don't want you bringing you around.
Yeah.
Around their husbands.
Sure. No, and that's rightfully so. It's deviant behavior, right? We shame deviant behavior because in the ancient tribes, anybody who was too different was a threat, right? That's weird. We don't like it because we're all trying to survive, so we need to agree on some rules, right? That's
burned witches at the stake for the same thing.
We're affiliative because we have to agree on something, and I'm a big fan of deviant behavior, but there's certainly costs to it. So I know it, and you find also when you're chasing fame and notoriety that sometimes things can be like candy. The public can consume you and be real interested and then get real sick of you quick. Right? I thought, honestly, Hawk Tuah, I thought she'd be going for about 2 days.
I thought so too.
So
I'm seeing her less now, so maybe it's starting to leave the algorithms a little bit, but yeah.
I mean, and you know what? I hope she bucks the trend. But
yeah, I have no ill wishes for her or anything. It's just a weird phenomena.
Yeah. Most of the like Playboy models back in the day and now OnlyFans type of girls, most of them, marry some dude, change their name, end up a wife and a mother, and it's starts to be left in the past.
Yeah.
I think that's not this new phenomenon of social media of turning it into like fame is a new thing we're doing, and I don't know. We'll see.
I don't think any of us know how to deal with it. It's so new.
We weren't meant to see the entire world all the time in front of our faces.
And how fast? Like,
I'm pretty serious on the block button. If people are rude to me, I block and do not unblock. And that's my own mental health. If people insult me, I don't really care if they're right or wrong. I need peace. So I just bye.
Yeah. So we've been, after a little
sorry,
delay, it's almost been 2 hours.
Sorry, I'll let you
Oh, no, that's okay. This has been great fun. So,
pondered all the problems of the world. At least there's dogs and your child. Now he's an adult. And, there's good things.
Yeah, we'll all be good. We'll be good. So, a couple of final questions before we wrap up. You mentioned that you are now, or are you still a commercial pilot? And
so
when did that start and how did you get involved in that?
Oh, so I flew for a hobby all my life. My grandpa was a pilot, my mom's dad. I think it was in the blood. I got my private at 16. That's as soon as you can. My commercial licenses I got during when I was suing that stalker, this awful guy that we talked about. Also, it was the Great Recession of 2008, so it was a great time to add some tickets. So that's when I added my commercial, my multi, my instrument, my CF, my instructor stuff. And I got a little more serious about it. And then I got typed in the CRJ 900. That's the regional jet. But then the Great Recession was happening, so there were no jobs. So I've never actually flown it, even though I learned it and studied it. And then I was a flight instructor for a while in all kinds of different, like, little single piston and multis, the Cessna 172s that everybody knows about, but also some stuff by Diamond, some Bonanza stuff, Beechcraft stuff. Planes are like cars. There's lots of different makes and models, but basically they follow some similar body plans, sort of.
Right.
And then I wanted to fly bigger, faster stuff. So I flew with an owner-operator who had a CJ-1, a Citation Jet 1. It's a very small business jet. And then I also flew some turboprop stuff for a cargo company that I won't name. and they're a turbine engine, but they spin a prop, not a fan. So it's not a jet, but it's not piston. It's not naturally aspirated like a piston aircraft, right?
Right.
So a little more power, a little higher service ceiling, but not a full, not a jet with the several stages of compression, right?
Right.
It's and yes, your commercial licenses you keep forever. People tend to think commercial pilot means you fly for the airlines. It's not actually what it means. Commercial license means you have a commercial license, which means you can fly for pay. I have
Right.
never flown for the airlines. I've never flown Part 121. It's not my world. I think I'm too old now to get hired, although maybe I could. I have only flown 135 and 91. And I am now adding my rotorcraft rating. So, but that's going to take me a couple years, and I'm very bad at it right now. And it's horrible to try to learn in Manhattan because the place you can fly over the Hudson, it's called the Exclusion, and it's like ground to 1300, and like you're routed between the military and the tourist aircraft and everybody going into Newark, Teterboro, over to LaGuardia and JFK. Like it's a shit show to try to fly
Yeah.
here. So I'm learning, but it's gonna take some work.
And it's funny that 20 years ago you would have been a stewardess on maybe a commercial flight instead of a pilot. Like,
Well, yeah, there were female pilots that ferried planes in World War One and Two. They didn't fly combat missions for obvious reasons, but they did ferry planes to battle because the men were busy fighting.
right,
So we've got. You used to need to be a man because if you flew like the B-52, with the four, and you lost, let's say you lost outboard number one, the last engine out on the end of the wing, if that blew and went out or whatever, caught fire, the torque on the plane, you're going to be standing on that rudder with all your might to try to point that nose straight and stick it because you got one shot.
right.
Out, you've got no climb or less climb or whatever you got, but it's going to be bad. So I don't know that a woman could get that done to straighten the nose to put it down
Just
correctly.
physically speaking.
Right. Well, when we feather
Yeah.
our engines to practice, we do these biennial reviews, and we pretend shut them down, and we put it down and simulate what it would be like to land with one engine. And I am on that rudder with all 125 pounds of me. Now, if it really happened in real life, I would have the other pilot,
Right. Yeah.
and I would have a fair shot of adrenaline because it would be real, and I'd be dying if I didn't do it right. So I feel like I would try at least.
I think so.
When it's simulated, you know that you're not actually going to die, so it's a different vibe. But power off landings with no engines are fine, but one engine it's the torque that's the problem. But now it's all fly by wire and hydraulics and things like that. You don't need to be physically strong like you used to, except for that one engine out situation. That's the only time I worry about my physical size as a woman.
Right.
Again, I would most flight crew. I mean, I have flown with other women, but typically, just odds are you're flying with a man, and so I would have his strength to help me out.
Right. Right.
And
So-
in most careers, that'll never happen. So
And are you also still involved in real estate, or is that a past?
who has said this?
I read it somewhere.
Yeah, I know. You're
swear
the
to God, I read
The
it somewhere.
third person in the last week. I have never been a real estate agent.
I'm gonna have to find that and send it to you when I
I
find it.
appreciate that, but I mean, I've bought and sold homes that I've lived in, and I was a landlord because in the Great
Close
Recession,
enough.
I couldn't sell my house, no apartment, right? Nobody wanted to buy it, so I
Right.
had a tenant fill it because I wanted to move and I couldn't get rid of it. So I've been a landlord just once, and I actually ended up selling her the apartment like 5 years later. She was turned from a renter into a buyer. Great
There
lady.
you go.
But yeah, no, I've never been a real estate agent. I don't. This rumor persists, but no. Maybe I don't know.
I'm
Maybe I'll
going
go
to do some research and see if I can find it again. Because
I've been
if it would have been just me, I would have thought I just read something wrong. But since you've said like three
No.
other people, I'm curious now. So
It's I've been an investor. I've done REITs like in my stock portfolio, but just like investment stuff.
maybe it did say real estate investor. I'll figure it out and I'll find it and let you know.
Thanks.
So you
yeah. So
can, yeah.
yeah. But flying is great. You can fly. Everybody can take a discovery flight. It's really fun.
That would be cool, actually. That
You
would
know,
be-
the best thing, there's
What's that?
no phone up there, no social media.
right. Airplane mode, baby.
Like that's the best part of it is that when I'm down here on this goddamn device,
Yeah, glued to it.
Right.
Well, it's been 2 hours, so minus
Sorry.
that 15 minute. No, no, don't be sorry. That's great. I love long form. I mean, the days of the nightly news where you'd have a segment where somebody'd get 5 minutes to give their thoughts on like Israel. Like, what are you going to say in 5 minutes about something like that? You know what I mean?
Right.
So to talk to you for 5 minutes about your
Yeah.
life would just not work. So hey, I'm okay with 2 hours, 3, 4, whatever.
Thanks. Yeah,
Long
it's
as
been a complex life full of mistakes and good stuff, probably like yours, like everybody's. I mean, I think
exactly.
you just muddle through, and a lot of it's been beautiful, a lot of it's been idiotic. Um, but I think that's in the end, I have hope that it'll continue to be good, and I think that there's grace for all of us sinners as long as we keep trying to get it right. I'm sure I'll
Right.
keep failing, but at least I learned, right? Don't we
That's right.
all?
That's right.
I admire
So,
your curiosity and that they're doing this like so self-directed the way you want to do it. I think that's super cool.
oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll drop you the link. You can tune into a radio show sometime.
Please do. I want to
I
hear.
will.
And
Yeah.
your writing. I mean, I have zero written talent, but I would love to see it if
Oh,
it's
I
out
will
there.
happily share with you for sure. Yeah.
Nice that you tap into that. I think it's
That's a
important.
form of the radio show and the writing, and even this, it's therapy. You
Sure,
know, it,
honest.
yeah, I get to talk to people about things that I'm dealing with, and they teach me new things on how to deal,
Hmm.
and the music is all therapy for me. Like, I throw the headphones on at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, glass of whiskey beside me, and I just lose myself. And I'm depressed on Sunday morning. Like, that's how much I love doing it.
Really?
I wake up Sunday morning, I'm like, oh fuck, it's Sunday again. Tomorrow's Monday. Shit.
The Sunday scaries. Do you like live music, like concerts, or
Oh
you
yeah,
prefer it?
yeah. I
Yeah,
love it.
me
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I love it.
There's an energy there. I went and saw the Afghan Wigs and was like,
Oh,
something
Miles is dead.
something happened to me. Like it was, I don't know. It's there's
Yep.
I think that's something from God, a
Oh
talented
god. Yeah.
musician. It's like it comes through them.
It's just music in general. Like, to me, there isn't anything else that brings you back to different times the way music does.
Yeah.
Nothing else. Maybe a TV show, maybe, but music.
More.
If I hear an opening chord to an Aussie song, I'm
Yeah.
immediately back in high school.
Yeah.
Like,
At the gym the
immediate.
other night, like Guns N' Roses was playing, and like all these kids in the Manhattan, they're so much younger than me. Like they didn't like it, but I was like all in on Axl Rose. Totally.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
That's
Ozzy, legendary.
80s music. That's my. I
Sure.
mean, I was a teenager in the mid 80s, so
Sure.
the whole metal, glam, punk, like all of that stuff,
I
just right.
loved the well, of course I was in love with Brett Michaels of
Bret
Poison
Michaels, yeah.
because everyone was. But it was kind of like country based in its chords and its basic melodies. But then they lay down that electric guitar. I mean, dude, I don't like it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you read
It's
the guy who married Pamela Anderson? I can't remember.
Tommy Lee.
Tommy Lee. When he was a broke musician in Hollywood, he was a gigolo.
Yeah, yeah,
Apparently, he's pretty seriously equipped. That's the word.
yeah.
And
And like you
oh,
said earlier, use your gifts,
well,
right?
I listened to an interview of his, and he lived in an apartment and was super broke. And some old lady was like, "If you'll date these friends of mine, we'll help you with your rent." And he was like, "Okay."
Yeah,
I mean,
crazy.
sure,
Yeah,
he survived. Good for him. But
yeah. I don't know how he survived. So him and Nikki Sixx. I don't know how they survived the '80s, but good
maybe
for them. Like I.
a lot of them got healthy later, right? They had
Yeah,
to.
oh yeah, yeah. Who was it? Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
I was watching a podcast with him. He said, without a word of a lie, that he didn't drink a glass of water until he was in his 40s.
Oh shit,
It's like, how are you alive? Like,
dude.
living through the 80s, all the drugs and booze and sex and debauchery and no water. And like, if I don't drink water before bed, I feel like garbage in the
Right?
morning. Like,
These guys,
so
they're And to be everybody's good time, it's got to be,
Oh yeah,
right? Did you
yeah.
see
You
that
can
movie
never be off.
with Mark Wahlberg?
Sorry, what was that with Mark Wahlberg?
It's a movie. It's called Rockstar. It's
No, I
starring
didn't.
Wahlberg.
No.
It's essentially the story of the second singer they recruited to be the lead of Van Halen when they did a casting and found a guy who could be the
Right. Yeah.
essentially that, but it's hilarious and it's about that like that wild life and he can't take it eventually, but
Yeah.
good. So
It's crazy. But then as we were talking about the Rolling Stones earlier, why would you ever want to quit that?
no.
Like, if I was in a band, I don't care if it's a cover band in a bar. If I
Yeah.
can go out and play music every week, make some pocket money
Yeah.
until I'm 80, fuck
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Ah,
Like,
I think it is the best. I think maybe. What do you think? Rockstar or professional athlete? What's better?
rock star.
Yeah. Athlete,
And
you're hurting a lot. You're in pain. It's a lot of training, eating.
yeah, it depends on the sport. If it's football, you're fucked up by the time you're 35.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's so short. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
I think Rockstar. We were talking about Theo Vaughn. Do you know who Shane Gillis is?
yeah, he just did Saturday Night Live a few weeks ago. He was
He does
hilarious.
that incredible Trump impression.
Yeah.
Um, he's my favorite current comedian,
Yeah.
and
Very fun.
he if you can look it up on YouTube, look up his show Live in Austin,
Okay.
because he's doing his show and then there's music that starts from a bar across the street and it throws him off.
Really?
Like he's in the middle of a bit and the music starts and he has to stop. And then he's like, oh, Jesus. And then he starts again and he has to stop again. And
Oh.
he says, Jesus, dude, music is so much better than what I do.
Aw.
Like, I just want to go over there. Like, I just hear tell stupid jokes, but like, listen to the fun they're having over. So, like,
He's not wrong.
even he knows, like,
Yeah.
Rockstar, swear it's at. Like,
I
and
read that Mozart wrote his songs down with no edits. They were finished in his head.
it's ridiculous.
I don't know if that was true. Obviously, I didn't know the guy, but they
I
say,
believe it with that level of genius.
yeah, it's like
Like,
it just came through him. But he was also
yeah,
a degenerate gambler and
yeah,
I mean, so many geniuses are complicated people.
yeah.
This is a
Elon Musk.
yeah
Yeah,
complex.
yeah, yeah. My musical hero is Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Um, and he is that kind of little bit eccentric, a little bit this, a little bit that,
Yeah.
but he what I love about him is how many iterations of himself he went through. Like,
Yeah.
he started off as the acoustic folk protest guy, then
Mm-hmm.
he went electric and everybody hated it, but he said, fuck you, I'm doing what I want to do,
Yeah.
which is another reason to me he was the first punk, or one of the early punks.
Yeah.
And then he did gospel, like he did gospel, he did country, he's done everything.
And his
And
lyrics are among the best in the world
oh,
ever.
and I watched an interview with him on 60 Minutes,
Mhm.
and that was sort of where my story was going about him. The guy asked him, like, where did those early lyric songs come from? And he says, I don't know. It was magic, because and then he read off some of his lyrics and he said, you try to write that. And I was like, oh, I know, trust me, because
Yeah.
I've tried. And
Yeah.
yeah, he said it's like it just magically came to him, like, and that's wild.
Yeah, that's something I can't understand.
I cannot relate to that one bit. I have to struggle. Like, the way I work is I'll get a line in my head and I think, oh, and then I build around that. Doesn't come to me magically.
That's all right too. There's a lot of people who do a lot of editing and carve it, the sculptor kind of way to go
Yeah,
about it too.
yeah,
That's fine too.
yeah. That's true.
It's
That's true.
yeah, humans with our stuff. I think we'll muddle through.
I
In
think
the
we'll
end,
be all right.
I think the ways in which we connect music, art, sitting at a cafe, having a coffee on a Sunday, I'd like to see more of that. And we
Yeah.
both are on social media for work and promotion, but I want to see more creativity and less arguing.
Mhm.
I want to nothing wrong with healthy debate, but I think we've got to use these new tools we have social media to do good things.
Yeah,
Not,
and I think we'll figure that out because
yeah,
like I said, I think it's all so new. I don't think we know what the hell to do with it at this
growing
point.
pains. Right? Maybe
Yeah,
we'll get sick of it all. Maybe that would be good if
we'll
it
see
got
what
less.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, less would be good, I think.
Dude, I'll scroll like TikTok and
Oh,
suddenly
I'm the
3 hours
worst.
have gone by. It's insane.
I'm the worst.
Yeah.
You were talking about earlier how about billionaires, how they're always busy, and like I don't think I would honestly want that. Like I like coming home from work, parking my ass on the couch, and scrolling through YouTube,
Honest.
watching reaction videos. That's my new obsession, by the way. Reaction
Yeah.
videos to music.
Okay.
So I watch reaction videos of people listening to music that I love for the first time.
Oh, that's cool.
There's so much joy in that.
Oh,
Like seeing young people in their 20s fall in love with Rush, for example, who's one of my favorite bands, good Canadian boys.
yeah.
And just watching like the awe, like that's only three guys making all that noise and then falling in love with the music. And yeah, so that's my thing. I'll take a couple
Cool
of
thing.
edibles and watch reaction videos all night. So I don't want to have to fucking be busy
Yeah.
running 9 companies. Like
I mean,
I'm not built that way.
no, me neither. I don't. I sleep too much. I'm too lazy.
Yeah,
I'm not ambitious enough. But I think it's
same.
fine that the world makes all of us. That's cool. Music reaction videos. I've never seen one. You'll have to send me one. I didn't know
I
that
will
existed.
send you. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
send
I'd
you.
like to see that.
Yeah.
I've seen the chef reaction to bad cooking. My sister and I like to share that back and forth because it's hilarious what people will make. And I'm not saying I'm a good cook because I'm not, but it's yeah, I guess we're social creatures. We like to watch each other, right? It's what's
And we
it.
want other people to love what we love.
Yeah,
So when you see someone that's 30 years younger falling in love with Megadeth, you're like, oh yes.
yeah,
Now you see what I saw back in
yeah.
1984. Like,
Well, if your
and
kids don't like your music, that's unacceptable, right? They have
that's
to have
right.
the same taste in music that you have.
And I think that's part of it. I think part of it is getting older, seeing all the stuff that we love, not dying because we'll always love it and our peers will, but
Yeah.
we want it to continue, right? We
Sure.
want it to be around as long and longer than we are. So seeing other people watch comedy or music and
Yeah.
love it just makes you feel good. Like it,
Yeah.
somebody
Feel like
loves what I loved 30 years ago. That's cool.
yeah, it's a tiny taste of immortality, right? Which
Yeah, exactly.
yes,
Yeah.
we're all here to connect, even in the very odd, problematic way, which I did. I'm not saying it was always a good thing. It's like we've talked about. It's a mess, but I do know that some people, I've known people that have died, and they did say at the end of their lives when they had cancer that I was among some of their funny, hilarious memories. And that's a tiny grain in the sand that for which I am not sorry. I don't regret.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's because really all we are here to do is connect. That's why podcasts are so cool. Why do people like to like put this on while they're cooking? Because they like to
Yeah.
hear a nice chat, right?
Yeah. And learn something and be inspired and all
Yeah,
of that stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
all good, right?
Well, as the immortal Rush once said, why are we here? Because we're here. Roll the bones.
Yes, that's so
Why
good.
does it happen? Because it happens. Roll the bones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
So let's keep rolling the bones.
Yeah, that's it. That was fun.
That was fun.
If you ever come down to Gotham, let me know.
Absolutely.